We can't see your screen yet.
Not yet? All right. Still
Yeah,
no?
we are able to see it now. Yes, we are able to see it
Okay.
now.
All right, perfect. There we go. So, all right, so we can go ahead and get started. I'll start by one introducing myself, but thanking you all for joining the call. I'm excited to talk DEI with everyone on today. So I'll start with saying that I am Trisha Dawson. Uh-oh, there we go. I'm Trisha Dawson. So I'm the founder of Catalyst Client Solutions, which is a consulting company that helps clients in the DEI, supplier diversity, and supply chain space. But just a little bit about myself. So I have over 20 years experience in corporate America, mainly in supply chain. I started out years ago after I graduated college in the automotive industry, working for GM and Delphi Packard and some other companies on the automotive side, and have since been mainly doing category management and DEI and supplier diversity since relocating to Florida. So on the screen there, you'll see some social media handles for me if you would like to get in contact with me. But I would like to just get right into the discussion and we can go from there. So we're going to be talking about how to approach and some of the aspects of DEI in the workplace. So I think most of us are probably familiar with what DEI is in general, but in case there are some people who are maybe new to this area or this segment of business, I'm going to share with you what DEI stands for, and then we can start the discussion. So most of us have a good grasp on the D in DEI, right? That stands for diversity. So really, it's just about having any pool of people, whether it's coworkers or friends, who just have unique attributes, right? That could be race, that could be gender, that could be religion, it could be socioeconomic status. There's a lot of things. So it's really, diversity is essentially just having a large group of different or diverse people, right? And so when you talk about equity, that really has to do with making sure that everyone on the team or within corporate America has access to resources or support that helps them to reach a level where everyone has an equal outcome, right? So it's not necessarily that everyone has the same resource or the same support, but finding individual solutions or resources so that the end outcome is equitable for everyone. And we'll spend some time talking about equity a little bit further in the presentation. And then lastly, the I in DEI stands for inclusion, right? So now that you have this diverse group of people, and now that you are pursuing equitable resources and support for them, that is, it would lead to inclusion. So is everyone feeling that they're included? Do they all feel valued and part of the team? Do they feel respected and that they belong and have a safe space either in corporate America or in the organization or community in which they are a part of? So that's essentially the quick and easy definitions for DEI. So we'll dig in a little bit more, but in case there are some new people to the space, here are the definitions for you. So I think we probably everyone on the call probably has a good grasp of diversity, right? So in understanding what that means, that's just, having a large group of people who are different and who are diverse. So I added this slide to really talk about equality and equity, because they're very different. So if you look at
Trisha? Hello,
yes.
Trisha. We are only seeing your blank screen, like the blue screen. Would you be able to share the PPT? I
Oh
think
my
you are
goodness,
having.
yes. I thought you could see it. Sorry about that. Do you see it now?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want me to go back here?
No, yeah, that's fine. If you can give me another, small brief, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Sorry about that. So what you're seeing on the screen there, you're seeing essentially some simple definitions of what DEI is, right? So diversity is obviously just, a large group of diverse people that have unique attributes, right? So that can be gender, that can be sex, that can be religion, age, socioeconomic status. It could be a geographic region where they grew up. It can be a lot of things that can make a large pool of people diverse. It doesn't necessarily always have to focus on race and or gender. There are a lot of aspects to diversity that are outside of that spectrum. And then equity is really about each person or individual having unique sources, resources, and supporting documents or supporting efforts that help them to have an equal outcome. So different people from different diverse backgrounds or different diversities can need different levels of support or resources to ultimately come out with an equal income with people who are of the non-global majority, right? So what I may need as a woman may be different from a resource or support that is needed for a man or for someone with a different religious background, et cetera. So that is equity, right? And then inclusion is really just once you have this diverse pool of people, ensuring that there's a way for them to feel included. Do they feel respected? Do they feel valued? Do they feel like their voice can be heard? Do they feel like they can communicate any concerns? That's inclusion is not always included in being diverse or included in any pursuits for equity. So it takes a specific level of intention and effort for people to feel included in an organization, and especially in corporate America. So here, we'll talk about equality versus equity, right? So if you look at the image up at the top, you'll see really the realities. This is, I like to use this in a lot of my presentations because it really speaks to some of the concerns that are in the DEI space, right? So if you look at the first one, if you're looking at the reality, that's typically how a lot of situations are in corporate America, right? So you see the gentleman who has, the 6 crates there. So he's rising all the way to the top and he can see well over into the game. He has the perfect view. He's enjoying the game great, but he has, 6 or 7 crates that he's on top of that have given him the privilege to be that high up and to see from a perspective that others may not. And so the reality is not everyone is on an equitable standing. So he's really tall. He has a great view that's unobstructed. Someone else may just have 1 crate. They can barely see over the fence. And that's usually where people of color, come in, where we don't necessarily have the full resources of white colleagues or coworkers in corporate America. And then you'll also see the little gentleman here who doesn't have a crate at all, and he's just staring at the fence, right? So that's reality of there's, it's not really fair. Some people have a ton of resources. Some people have 1 resource. Some people have none. And that's just reality, right? So if you look at equality, that would be just everyone getting the same resource or support. So in the second square there, you'll see that they all just have the 1 crate, which works great for the guy on the left. It kind of helps the guy in the middle. He still can, barely see over the fence, so he can see. But that 1 crate for the gentleman in the purple shirt doesn't help him at all. So even though it's equal, it is not equitable because they're all not having the same experience at the baseball game. And then if you talk about equity, that is finding individual resources for each individual person that makes the outcome equal. So you'll see here, everyone can see the game. Everyone's enjoying the game. The first gentleman didn't really need any resources. He was already, sufficient to come and join the party. The second one still has the 1 crate that lets him look over into the game. And then the gentleman or lady in the purple shirt has been given additional support and resources to help her or him be able to look over into the game and enjoy the experience that everyone else was enjoying prior to any equity efforts. So I'm hoping that by looking at this, you can see the difference between something being equal, which would be here. Hopefully you can see my mouse moving, and something being equitable. So over here with equity, they're all seeing the game. They're all enjoying it. They all have the same viewpoint. So it's equitable. And then ultimately, the goal long-term within DEI is really to get to liberation, right? So that's when you don't necessarily have to put as many resources into equity because the systematic barriers that have been in place that have given some people a head start given some people a head start and others a disadvantage have been removed. So you'll see there on the right, this is the end goal. Everyone's there enjoying the game. The systematic barriers that have been in place that have been unfair to marginalized groups have been removed or addressed, and everyone has a fair chance at enjoying the outcome. So I tend to talk a little fast. If there are questions, please feel free to stop me as I go along. But this, I think, will hopefully give you all a clearer understanding of the difference between equality, which is the same thing for everybody, and equity, which really addresses the individualness of the people within your organization and definitely within the workplace in corporate America. Different people have different needs, not just having access to the same resources as another colleague within your organization is insufficient. So that could be, if a person needs time off for religious reasons, or if a person is disabled and they have a wheelchair and they need different accommodations. So equality, while nice, should not be the end goal. The end goal is for everything to be equitable and eventually for everything to be judicial and have justice, so that all those systematic barriers of, non-minorities having advantages with networking, or having advantages with attending certain schools, or being assigned jobs just based on maybe somebody in their family or who they know, or just the fact that they are white and assumed to be smarter, brighter, faster. Those systems would be removed, so that now there's a clear playing field for everyone, and we're all having the same resources, and it's fair for everyone. So I'm hoping that that makes sense. I can't see any faces, but I'm hoping that it does. I see somebody's face there. All right, so that is the difference between equality and equity. So hopefully we're clear there. So let's get into some myths that are in the place with regard to DEI in the workplace. So first, a company commitment to DEI is enough. That is absolutely not the case. That's definitely a myth. A company can come out and say that they are fully committed to DEI, and they can even commit some resources to it, but that is not enough to make actionable change within any company in corporate America, or for there to be sustainable efforts in the workplace to ensure that everyone feels seen, feels heard, and feels like they belong. So just because your company has a commitment to DEI, or they have a mission statement on their website, that is not enough. There has to be actionable work behind their DEI commitment. Otherwise, the workplace will likely remain the same and will not change. Second, that DEI is reverse discrimination. Absolutely not true. It is not reverse discrimination. DEI efforts are in place to address systematic issues or barriers or levels of privilege that have been in place really in corporate America and in the workplace for years, even centuries, that have placed people of color, or not even just people of color, but people with diverse characteristics at a disadvantage. So it is not reverse discrimination. It's really balancing out the playing field, making it more equitable, and addressing the systematic inefficiencies that have been in place. Third, diversity focuses only on race. That's far from the truth, right? So you can have a diverse group of people of one race, and there can still be diversities within that. So you can have a diverse group of African Americans, and there can still be differences based on gender, sexual preference, religion, geographical location. Diversity is not at all just based on race. There's so many other factors to it. And I think for us who are in the workplace and doing DEI work in corporate America, if you just focus on race, then you're likely doing yourself and your organization a disservice. So you have to broaden your definition and broaden how you think about diversity to be beyond sex and gender. There's so much more to it. Let's see. The other one is there is no place for straight white men in DEI, and that also is untrue. There's plenty of room for allies in the DEI space. There are spaces for people to support the efforts for DEI. A lot of times there are white, even straight men who are very interested in the topic, who want to understand more about DEI and how they can make a place or make an impact within their organization. So it does not mean that if you are, if you have a DEI department or council within your company, that there cannot be white men who are included. That's not true. They can be great allies if they come in and are willing to learn and listen and help the cause. Let's see, diversity leads to lower standards. This is probably the one that bugs me the most. It absolutely is not the case. It does not lead to a lower standard. Studies have found that diversity tends to increase innovation. It increases creativity. For organizations that have serious DEI efforts, they tend to have higher revenue. They have lower turnover. So there is no lowering of the standards. There are fully capable, knowledgeable experts that are of diverse backgrounds out here. So if your company is saying that they're not diverse because the candidates are not out there or they can't find people who can do the job, then they're not looking hard enough and they're lying. So there's no lowering of the standards. There are a myriad of people who are diverse who can do fantastic jobs in corporate America in any organization. You just have to go out and be intentional about locating them and putting them to work. All right. So inclusion, the myth is that inclusion will immediately follow diversity. So you can have a diverse group and it does not mean that you have inclusion. So you can have a wide range of colleagues or workers who you work with every day, and it does not mean that those people feel included, that they feel that they can speak up with any concerns, that they are valued as a part of the team. Those two are not, inclusion and diversity are not mutually inclusive, no pun intended. So you can absolutely have diversity and not have inclusion. You have to put concerted efforts into making sure that people feel included. That can be ensuring that there are vegetarian options at group lunches. That can be ensuring that you don't have large company outings on certain religious holidays. There are a myriad of ways that you can make people feel included in addition to acknowledging their diversity. All right, and then the last one is that all biases are bad. So I know in the DEI space, there's a lot of talk about, implicit bias or unconscious bias, and there are definitely some concerns there, right? And that can affect how people are treated in the workspace. And some of those, the consequences of those biases can be negative, absolutely. But there are also biases that can be had that can, protect you from harm, that, can keep you, out of situations that may be dangerous. So all bias is not bad. We all of us tend to have some bias. It's just ingrained in how we are. We usually grow up with bias based on, our who raised us or our environments. So all of it is not bad. The key to bias is just being honest about your bias and ensuring that you are addressing any negative biases. But there are, a bias that can clue you into maybe you're in a dangerous environment or something is amiss, at your organization. So bias in general, I think when everyone hears the word bias, they automatically assume that it is 100% of the time negative, and that is not always the case. All right. So let's talk about ways to support DEI in the workplace. So the first one is be brave, right? So be brave and be inclusive. So I'll share a little story that I think I shared already with someone on the call, but a couple of years ago, I worked for a company. I won't say their name, and I was doing work there. I was a supply chain analyst on a global team and doing some work. So long story short, I ended up finding out that the company hired a white person who was less qualified than me, gave them a better title and increased, and it paid them more than me, right? So the reason I'm sharing this story is that this is why I put that you have to be brave, right? So when I found that out, I went to my management and communicated that I had a problem with it, and asked him to address the issue or the deficiency and to come back to me within 2 weeks, with what he was going to do about it. And so he did not, in that amount of time, he did not address it. So I ultimately ended up resigning from that company in that position, just based on my own moral standing. I just thought it was the principle for me, and I didn't want to work for a company that treated me or really anyone in that way, right? So I put be brave as the first one, because not that I'm telling you to quit your job, please don't do that, but it does take a certain level of being brave to have DEI discussions, to talk about diversity within your company, to talk to your managers or your leaders about a lack of inclusiveness at your company. So that does require that you are brave and willing to use your voice to have those conversations. Because even within corporate America and in the workplace, some companies are very far down on their DEI journey, and they are more welcoming to having those conversations. But some companies may just be starting out, and you may have to explain to them what DEI is, right? And so, we all obviously work for a living, and we value being employees or, part of the teams in which we're on. But it will require some courage to start those discussions. And I think the good part is we're starting to see more companies that are receptive to the topic, right? So hopefully the conversation won't go completely south, but it does take a certain amount of courage to start those discussions. So, and again, to be inclusive, don't think of DEI as just based on sex and race. There's so many other factors. You have people who are neurodiverse, you have people who are physically or mentally handicapped. There's so many other things, and make sure you're including all of those factors in your DEI efforts. Be inclusive of everyone who may possibly be marginalized. Bring all those people into your thought process when you're going through any DEI efforts or when you're having conversations. Just be inclusive and make sure that everyone can feel welcomed as much as possible. Secondly, use your voice, right? Be a catalyst for change. So if you are in a position within your company that you have a certain level of influence, use your voice to talk about DEI. Use your voice to lend some of your time to people who may be marginalized within your company, and they may not get an opportunity to talk in meetings or to present in meetings or to have their ideas heard. So if you are a leader in your company, use your voice to propel other people to the forefront sometimes. And it's really okay to shine a little bit of your light on others, right? So there's enough light for all of us. So if you are in a position to share or bring other people to the forefront and let them talk or, share their opinions, please do so, right? And then third, seek fellow supporters and allies. So on the previous slide, I know I talked about where there is a space in DEI for white, straight men, right? They can come in and be supportive. They can come in and be allies. This may be where they fit in, right? So there are people who are not minorities or of a diverse background that want to still pursue or help the DEI mission go forward. So don't necessarily feel that you have to do it all on your own. I'm not saying that everyone in the company will be an ally, but you may run into some people who are truly authentic people who really want to see DEI in the workplace improve and be better. When you identify those people, partner up with them people and see if you can have a larger impact by working together. And fourth, join employee network councils if they're available within your company. Some companies who are new on the DEI space may not have ENCs, but if you are at a company that has a DEI leader and has some ENCs, feel free to join those. I know at the company I work for, I am on the global DEI leadership there, but I also co-chair the African American Employee Council, and I am on the Women's Employee Council as well. So if those councils or similar groups are available within your workplace, reach out to them, see if there's a way for you to join, if there's a way for you to even be a leader, because all those efforts put together will help the DEI efforts at your workplace to go further, faster. And if there aren't any, maybe you can start one. Maybe there are no ENCs because no one has suggested it, right? So maybe that can be a part of you being brave. Suggest that there are some network councils that can begin, because ultimately those are really just put in place for people of certain demographics or groups to really have a safe space to discuss any concerns they have in the workplace, to brainstorm on ways to improve that, to talk about ways to bring DEI efforts further into their organization. And I'm learning that ENCs can be very productive. So if they're available to you, maybe look out for them. If they are not available to you, maybe consider being the founder and starting one yourself. Let's see, identify areas of opportunity, right? So this can be, if you are in procurement or sourcing, it can be, furthering efforts for supplier diversity. If you're in HR, this can be bringing DEI into your hiring practices. I know typically when I am on interview panels at my company, I will specifically request that they bring in a diverse list of candidates, right? So that is usually one of the things that I talk about in the beginning. Don't bring just 15 of the same people. We want a pool of diverse, qualified candidates. So that's another way that you can impact DEI in the workplace while still just doing your regular daily responsibilities. So when we are looking for interns, or when we are surveying suppliers, because I'm also heavily involved in supplier diversity, I am always trying to include diverse suppliers in any quotations that go out. I'm always looking for diverse suppliers for any new awards that my company is giving out. So it doesn't mean that the diverse supplier may always win the business, but it does mean that I'm at least supporting them and giving them a seat at the table to potentially win business with my company or other companies. Let's see. So, and then if nothing exists, start something. So this is really connected with the ENCs, or if your company doesn't have a DEI council, or if if they've never done anything from a DEI perspective, maybe you're the first. Maybe you'll be the founder, right? Maybe you can go to your leadership and ask about starting a DEI council, and get some like-minded people that you work with in the workplace and start it yourself. So sometimes it isn't always that DEI at certain companies. It isn't always at the beginning. It isn't always a full-time or a paid position. Sometimes you have to, in the beginning, I was doing DEI along with my other responsibilities, right? So if there's nothing there and it's, and DEI is passionate to you, start it, and be okay starting small, and then just, get bigger and learn more as you go. And then this one's really important. So while you do DEI, please be sure to protect your own mental and emotional health. It can be draining to be a diverse worker in a predominantly white space, definitely in corporate America or in other workspaces. That can add some mental or emotional toil that others don't really recognize. So be sure to be cognizant of how you are taking care of yourself from a self-care perspective, and ensuring that you are healthy from a mental and emotional standpoint. So while we are all here to further DEI efforts, we do also need to take care of ourselves at the same time. So, do as much as you can, but don't overwhelm yourself. A lot of companies have free resources for therapy or things of that nature. So if you feel the need to take, advantage of those resources, please feel free to do so. I can attest that, being Black or being a woman in corporate America can be a challenge. And there have been times when I've had to get a therapist or, take a step back just to make sure that I was, taking care of myself and being kind to my own mental and emotional health at the same time. So please keep that in mind. All right, so here's some ways to support DEI in the workplace. So one, identify any inequities and issues that are there, right? So is the hiring process unequal? Is it prejudiced toward a certain type or a certain demographic? If so, maybe you can address that with HR, right? So take time to really watch what's going on in the workplace and then have some plans to address them as you can, right? Or as you have access to leaders, address the inequalities or at least bring them up and have discussions about them. And hopefully you can band together with the leadership at your workplace to address them in the short and long term in a healthy way. So secondly, educate yourself and others. I'm in the DEI space all the time, but I'm still learning. I probably learn something new every day, right? So even while I'm talking to you, I still also go to seminars. I just ordered a new book on DEI just the other day. So I'm also, while I'm educating others, I'm also still educating myself. So that you can do that in the form of, there's a myriad of trainings, there's workshops. Sometimes we can do lunch and learns where, you know, it's a quick hour, everyone brings their lunch and you can talk about something that's DEI related. And you can do listening sessions. Sometimes if there are allies that are, you know, not in the DEI space full time, you can do listening sessions where they can understand the diverse perspective. And sometimes that can lead to conversations and resource allocation opportunities. Let's see. So third, establish policies and procedures in support of the DEI mission. So if you don't already have established policies, any work that you can do to establish those in the workplace will be beneficial. So if that is, as I mentioned, ensuring that you have a diverse range of candidates for any open positions, if that means that you establish a supplier diversity program at your company, if it means that you establish a DEI council at your company because there isn't one, look at establishing policies and procedures that make DEI a regular topic and a regular part of the business cycle. I think that it keeps it at everyone's mind, it keeps it at the forefront of everyone's mind, and then it gains momentum in that way. And then, so communicate your purpose, your intent, and your goals, right? So and that can be formally or informally. So as you're just talking with your colleagues, or as you're talking with your manager, or as you're talking to people that you manage, be sure to communicate what is the purpose of DEI, why is it important, what goals do you feel should be in place within your workplace, and how are you going to get there? You may not always know how you're going to get there, but you can at least talk about how you think the end result should be with regard to DEI and how you would like to make changes. So always be communicating that. Whenever I have one-on-ones with my manager or the executive team at my companies, I always bring up DEI every time. I always have questions for them about DEI. I always come with information about DEI, just so I can keep it at the forefront of their mind, and that they understand that it's important, and I explain to them why it's important. Then I get their feedback, and that's also where I ask for resources, or I ask, you know, for more time to go, you know, to go into the topic a little deeper. But I'm always bringing up DEI in the course of my day, right? And then once you have some DEI, you know, progress going on, see if you can audit it, right? So this is probably for some of the organizations that are a little bit more established in the DEI journey, but you have to audit the progress. It's great to have DEI goals, and you can have policies in place and you can have procedures, but if they're not being audited, you're not truly keeping track of, are we meeting the goals? Are we truly being more inclusive? Are we hiring more diverse staffing? If you're not auditing that, the practice or the goals that you've put in place, then sometimes we can slip back into being less inclusive than originally intended. So you have to audit the progress as you go along. And then lastly, empower others, right? So all of us are on the call here. None of us have to do it by ourselves. Find others, find supporters, find allies, and empower them to also have those same conversations. None of us on the call should have to do it by ourselves. DEI is, you know, a global segment now. There's a lot of leaders out here. I'm not the only one. There's a ton of, you know, people who are experts in this space outside of myself. So empower others to reach out, empower them to ask questions, empower them to make changes if they're at a different facility. So just ensure that you don't feel that you have to do it all by yourself. There's hopefully other people within your organization that also want to have an impact on DEI. So I think everyone's on mute. This may have been my last slide because I wanted to save time for discussion and or questions. So are there any questions or comments from anyone that's on the line that is connected with DEI that we can have an open discussion? I'll just wait and see if anyone.
Hi, Trisha. Nowadays, I see employers making some affinity groups, women's affinity group or
Mhm.
Pacific Island.
The employee network councils. Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, those are called employee network councils. Yeah, yeah. So would you be able to talk I see most of these meetings are pretty much 3, 4 core people coming in, not having a lot of attendance there. How do you think we can rectify that issue and then basically bring in more people to those kind of events within
Oh, sure.
the organization?
Yeah, so I think you're right. So in the beginning, employee network councils can start out a little slow. People are not necessarily sure what is this, what's it for. So in the beginning, at my company, when we decided we were going to do ENCs, we started ahead of time with sending out some communication saying, "Hey, the ENCs are they're gonna start in 2 months, right?" And then we just gave them a blurb about what it is, what it is not, who could be invited, who should join, and if you want to join this, here's who you can reach out to. So we often will send out communication showing who the leaders of each ENC are, and probably a week or two before the first meeting or a week or two before any meeting, we usually will send out the agenda, and the agenda will usually go over the purpose of the ENC. Obviously there's one ENC I mentioned that's for African Americans. So we talk about what's on the agenda. First, it's going to be addressing any open issues or any concerns that anyone in that space has about ethics or legality within the company. So we obviously want to address those concerns. We usually will put a brainstorming session on there. We also send out surveys ahead of time based on the demographics for whichever ENC it is, and ask them, what would you like the ENC to talk about? Are there concerns within the company? Because they may have concerns. Maybe they work at a different site than I do, and I'm unaware. So do they want to talk about training and development? Do they want to talk about discrimination in the workplace? Do they want to talk about establishing a more diverse level of colleagues, right? Are they feeling like they're the only one and they want us to, maybe take the feedback back to the executives that we are not recruiting diverse colleagues, right? So we usually will send out a survey saying, what is it that you would like to achieve by the ENC? What would you like to talk about at the next meeting? What are your concerns? Are there issues that you have had for years that have never been addressed? What are those? And so usually the first meeting, there's a lot of introduction. We're kind of trying to explain what an ENC is and why it is and how it's connected to DEI. And then for future meetings, we really let them kind of dictate the agenda. When we sent out these surveys, we got a lot of responses back, right? So we tally the surveys and we kind of put them in, similar groups. And then we try to address at least a couple of those at every meeting. So we'll send the agenda out and say, hey, the survey, you said you wanted to talk about more inclusive hiring practices. You wanted to talk about being the only Black person in the room, and how frustrating that is. And you want to talk about ways that you can communicate to the executives. So for the next meeting, we will talk about those. So sometimes we may bring in the HR manager to talk about what she's doing to bring in more diverse talent. Or, we may have someone come in and talk about inclusiveness, right? So that you don't feel that you are alone, right? We do tend to give some ground rules that whatever personal information or personal opinions that are shared in the ENC are not shared external. So there is some level of confidentiality because you want people to feel comfortable to share how they're feeling or any challenges that they have in the workplace. So there is some of that. I mean, obviously, if there's any concerns with regard to employee safety or anything of that, obviously we have to address those appropriately. But we do tend to try to keep some level of confidentiality while still addressing the issues that have been brought to the group. So the first meeting may just be introductory. The first couple meetings, we did have everyone who showed up introduce themselves, because not every diverse person knows every other diverse person within a company, especially when you work for large companies, right? I work for a large company that has 7,000 employees. Everyone doesn't know everybody. So, right. So, so we did do some introductions, and then we broke out into some breakout groups. And then us leaders just went around and introduced ourselves and, explained the point of the ENC, and then asked them, what would you like to hear in the, what would you like to hear at the next meeting? What would make this a productive time for you? So I think if you're just starting one, I would say send out some not advertising, but send out some communications so they know that one is starting. You can ask for volunteers. Typically, you need a couple people at least to manage. So we have a communications person who sends out the communications, letting people know when the next meeting is going to be. We have a secretary who tends to take notes if there's stuff that we want to follow up on. And then there's a couple leaders who will typically not talk the whole time, but at least lead the meetings, right? So in the beginning, just, and then we also, after our first meeting, we charged everyone in that ENC to bring another person to the ENC that would be suitable. So for the women's ENC, we asked them all to bring another woman to the next meeting, or invite another woman, obviously, right, to the next meeting, so you can grow in your scope, and you can grow in your attendance. So I'm hoping that is the answer that you're looking for, or if you have another question, I can try and answer that as well.
Yeah, that I got pretty much how to go forward for the next meetings. Yeah, that was really useful, Trisha.
Okay, perfect. And then on here, let me put this here. You'll see my email address on here too. If you have additional questions, always feel free to email me or reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter, and I can get you some additional resources if you're thinking about starting in any network councils at your place of employment. All right, any other questions or comments? I wanted to save a little time in case there were any specific topics you all wanted to discuss. All right. Well, again, thank you all for having me today. You'll see my contact details are on the screen. Please feel free to reach out at any time. I love to talk DEI. I'll talk it all night, but I know it's we have some people who are in different time zones, so I want to be respectful of the time. So am I passing it back to the administrator now? Let's see.
Thank you, Trisha, for taking time to meet us today.
No problem.
We all really appreciate your expertise on DEI. This needs to be we need to talk a lot about it. We need to bring in changes in a lot of employers, they're still not aware of DEI. They're not still kind of making any changes. So we have to educating, and then basically talk more, spread more. And I feel very positive about after having a discussion, listening to you, and we all enjoyed the time here. And yeah, I, as Trisha said, if anyone wants to reach, there is Trisha_Catalyst as both Twitter as well as Instagram handlers. Also, there is an email ID, catalystclientsolutions@gmail.com. Please feel free to email Trisha, and yeah.
Let me know. I'll absolutely share any information I have. DEI is passionate to me, so if I can help you all in the DEI journey, I'm absolutely willing to do that. We're all in this together.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so no problem at all. Thank you all for listening and for having me. I appreciate the time and the space. So I hope you all have a great day or evening. And hopefully I'll hear from you soon. Just, reach out and hopefully we can continue the discussion.
Thank you all.
All right, bye-bye.